folks. It's your buddy Mike Messier, joined by Gonzo. Gonzo, how are you, buddy?
I am very good, man. How are you?
I'm good. We had a little audio issues on take one. We'll do take two. We'll do this about 11 minutes. I know people are going to watch Raw tonight, which is fine. However, my prescription, Gonzo, is I always say watch the WWE pay-per-views and skip the weekly shows. Skip Raw and skip SmackDown. Now, I know a lot of fans will watch tonight because it's a big see what happens when, Becky Lynch. But I guess Becky Lynch is actually the SmackDown Women's Champion. Although, traditionally WWE does whatever they want with that whole, Raw versus SmackDown thing. And Brock would also be a SmackDown guy too. So if they were actually doing the division split between Raw and SmackDown, we wouldn't even care that Brock and Becky are both back, right? Because they're both part of the Raw side of things. I'm sorry, the SmackDown side of things.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
with WWE, they just do whatever the hell they want. So in any event, I wouldn't be surprised if the number tonight was pretty big because Raw fans, WWE fans will tune into Raw expecting to see some type of Becky or Brock announcement or something. But we'll just have to wait and see if people are going to bother to watch. I don't know if I'm going to bother to watch because, like I said, my method of operation, Gonzo, is I strictly watch these pay-per-views. I saw SummerSlam in a movie theater. It was a lot of fun. I actually came out of there giving the show an A-. But a lot of people tend to disagree. I know you kind of were watching some UFC and then you checked in with SummerSlam and got the whole appetite filled later. What were your thoughts on SummerSlam?
I mean, I thought it was a good show, and mainly for one reason is that it just had that WrestleMania feel because of where it was and being in Allegiant Stadium and everything like that. But I mean, there were some good matches too. You know what I mean? I can't lie. There were some good matches. I thought the Usos tag match with the Mysterios was good. I thought that overall there were good matches. The main event was really good. But there was nothing there to hook me, dude. You know what I mean? There's nothing there for me to say, I'm going to go watch Raw. I'm going to go watch WWE again. I want to put on Raw for like 10 to 15 minutes tops tonight just to see how they come back from SummerSlam. Like, they're coming off that big pay-per-view. What are you going to do now? And I'm sure that it's probably going to be garbage, and I'm going to shut it off after 5 minutes.
Well, here's the thing. That's happened several times over the last 2 or 3 years. It's been a pattern. When they do have a really good pay-per-view, WWE, you're getting, you as in the fans, myself, anyone, gets excited thinking, oh my God, they're finally back on track. They're finally doing things right again. You tune into Raw and it's shit. And I think the issue might be, but I mean, it's a 20-year issue at this point that they haven't figured out. The whole roster split, when people talk about the Attitude Era, that was pre-roster split, right? The
Yeah.
roster splits didn't happen till I think it was Ric Flair started doing that. I want to say the day after WrestleMania. I want to say 19. It was either 18 or 19. It's probably 18. So, my point is the roster split can kill momentum because, in theory, if Brock and Becky are both SmackDown only superstars, that's the big news stories, right? But
Yeah.
you're going to make people wait until Friday. So you got a whole wrestling week we don't know what's going to happen in the world as far as anything. You've got NFL football starting. There's all these things with worldwide health and governments and all these things that can distract even the most loyal wrestling fan, can kill that momentum between a Saturday pay-per-view in this case and Friday SmackDown. So that's why, I feel that if they're firing people left and right, Braun Strowman's, Bray Wyatt's, cutting the roster, getting rid of the NXT talent, some of them, why not consolidate and have everybody under one banner again? But that's just another thought. What do you think of that?
I think the roster splits are stupid. I've never liked it. I mean, I guess on paper there might be some benefit to it on paper because, like, oh, people can get more time or something. But I don't even really buy that. I think that the shows need to be concurrent. They need to be one continuous thing. You know what I mean? Each show leads into the next show, leads into the next show, leads into the next show. That's when wrestling is good. That's how it was in the Attitude Era. Even when SmackDown started, they were still doing that. But I feel like, I don't know, it was probably around 2003, 2002 when they did the roster split shortly after they bought WCW and ECW. And I feel that's really when I stopped watching wrestling. When I think about it, is when they started doing that shit, because it was just like, this is fucking stupid. You know what I mean? It's all one thing. It's WWE. That's what I'm watching. So why am I watching two separate like shows? You know what I mean? It's all WWE. Just give me, one after the other, all the way.
Well, I think the thought was because they did get all that talent from WCW and ECW, their thought, which it's not an evil thought to have. It's just, I don't
Oh.
think it's worked a lot of the time, is that we have all this talent, Booker T's and Hogan's and Nash's and Hall's, and it was literally like the Monday after WrestleMania. It was either I want to say WrestleMania 2002 off the top of my head, because it was Flair who came out there and kind of announced the roster split, and they did like the whole draft, and I could be mistaken, but I think Brock Lesnar was like the first draft for Raw and the first ever draft, if I'm getting all this right. Just going by memory, I'm not Googling, folks. But to your point, that might have been a different time when you had your rosters busting at the seams with talent, Rock, Angle, Austin, Benoit, Guerrero, and to have two sets of belts and two sets of title chases might have been appropriate. But now in 2021, when I think they've literally merged these titles twice, like they did that Chris Jericho wins the WCW title, and then wins the title tournament over Austin and Rock in one night. That's going way back. And then when you had Randy Orton beats John Cena in a unification match, double ladder match, it's almost the same fucking angle, the same hype. And then they just kind of find a way to reincarnate this split. And this most recent reincarnation was with the Universal title being created. And I still haven't had anyone explain to me, why should we put more value on the Universal title than the Bruno belt, the lineage title, as I call it. And the greatest answer seems to be, well, that's because the Universal title is the one that Brock always goes for. Well, who put this fucking Brock Lesnar on a goddamn pedestal? I sure as fuck didn't. So I don't get it. And the reality is, it's all a stack of cards. Once you kind of get to one core truth about how WWE is screwed up, or you can even say how pro wrestling in general is screwed up, once you pull out a couple of these key cards, it's easy to just, the whole thing can tumble down. But as pro wrestling fans and WWE fans, we don't want it to tumble down. But when they make it difficult for you to defend it, it's where I think fans get frustrated and eventually lose interest, or their interest becomes like me and maybe like you, Gonzo, where we have an interest in hoping that it gets better, but feeling like we're holier than thou when we realize it doesn't seem to get better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, because that's what it's been for me for ever since I got back into wrestling in 2014. And then it started to get bad like a year and a half later. It was like, wow, this is getting really terrible. And it was just like holding out hope for 3-4 years, like, oh, hopefully it gets better. Hopefully it gets better. And, to your point, I think it's kind of funny, like, quick story. My grandfather got me into wrestling, but when I was a kid, my father didn't like wrestling. But
Okay.
he used to watch it. He used to watch it when he was a kid, like the Bruno Sammartino days, Don Morocco days, Roddy Piper, that type of shit. And when the Monday Night Wars happened and Hogan turned heel, my father started watching wrestling again, because it was like, holy shit, Hogan turned heel and the NWO and all this crazy shit. And he watched it for like 3 years. And then when the Monday Night Wars were over, he stopped watching it. But I remember him saying, to your point, they've already done everything they can do in wrestling. He was saying that 20 years ago. Like they've already done everything there possibly is to do. And To an extent, I agree with that. To an extent, they really have done like everything that you can do, to the point now where it's like you really have to start thinking outside of the box. And WWE lives in the wrestling bubble. We all know that. Everything they do is in the wrestling bubble. They can't get out of that. And that's what needs to be done. I mean, you have to open the envelope creatively, like massively open that envelope. And that's the only way you're going to get people watching wrestling again. You know what I mean? Because right now it's only the fans, people that liked wrestling for years, that are watching wrestling. They're not getting that many new fans. Maybe AEW is, they might be pulling some new fans, but I don't think WWE is really getting many new fans,
It's really hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I was at Epcot last week, and in about a 2-minute span, I saw a guy walking around with a Hulk Hogan's, you know, T-shirt shop, Orlando, Florida, and then
Mm-hmm.
I go into the men's room, and not that I'm looking around in there, but I see a guy wearing an Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 6 shirt. So that's kind of like retro stuff, or it is retro stuff, obviously, if it's Hogan based. But to me, there is still a pulse of wrestling. Obviously, I mean, you got to give credit to WWE. They had 45,000 people at SummerSlam. They say the number is 51,000, and I would just say that 6,000 seats could have been papered, meaning giveaways or gifts or whatever, and 45,000 could have been sold. But whether it's 45,000 or 51,000, it's impressive. What did those people come to see? I would say that those 45 or 51,000 people would have come to SummerSlam no matter what the matches would have been. It could have been Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns or Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns. And I don't think that John Cena being in the main event was the decision maker for many people, because they just wanted to go to SummerSlam, and they wanted to go to a live wrestling show with other people and be part of that. And to give them credit once again, they should really be they should be building a statue for Pat Patterson, because I could be wrong, but I think Pat had some of those ideas for these names, like Royal Rumble. I think was definitely Pat Patterson's idea, which has become one of the big four, along with Survivor Series, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania. Howard Finkel apparently had the idea for WrestleMania's name, and you hear that once in a while, like on a Jim Ross or Bruce Pritchard podcast, but they won't talk about that too much. It's part of the WWE narrative that they want you to think that the brain power is coming from Vince and now to Stephanie and maybe to Triple H. But let's talk about this. What did you think of AEW Friday night? CM Punk. What did you think of that?
I loved it. I loved it, dude. It's because of, I could feel something from that. You know what I mean? Nothing WWE does anymore can I feel it. Like, is there any emotion there? It's something to really draw me in. But with that, I mean, there was the perfect elements, the perfect storm, the way everything happened. Sold out in Chicago, United Center, the biggest show ever. They just came out The Last Dance about Michael Jordan like a year ago. Now they're going to do The First Dance. CM Punk coming back after 7 years. I didn't even watch wrestling when CM Punk was wrestling. I saw the pipe bomb promo when I first started watching wrestling again in 2014. He was already gone. And I saw that promo and I was like, wow, this guy must have been good, but I wasn't watching it when he was around. And just to see the way that place erupted and how much emotion those people had, how much emotion he had, it was like the most real moment I've seen in wrestling in as long as I can remember. I can't. When I was a kid, yeah, it was different. But like now, I haven't seen a moment in wrestling that was that real with that much emotion in as long as I can remember.
The only thing I could really think of, and give him credit again to WWE, is Roman Reigns' leukemia announcement, which I want to say was 2017 on a Raw from Providence.
That's a good point. That's a good point, bro.
Yeah, and
that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, because that's a real deal thing. Because you got to remember, Roman was the hated babyface when he made that announcement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that moment kind of made people question themselves as fans, which is great. You're like,
Yeah.
man, we've been tearing this guy a new asshole for 3 or 4 years, and we didn't realize he had leukemia the whole time, and it made you kind of second guess yourself because fans were pretty vicious towards Roman. I'll be honest, man. Now that I'm talking about that, wouldn't it have been that much more interesting if Roman had used that hatred from the fans and the leukemia thing as part of his heel turn? You know what I mean? Because the
Yeah.
way, I guess what I get angry about Gonzo is with wrestling, both AEW and WWE, they seem to shy away from using the tools of reality at times. Why couldn't Roman have said something like, "You people booed me out of buildings for 4 years. None of y'all knew that I was suffering from leukemia, but I was whooping ass anyway, doing my best, and you people sent me death threats. You people sent me hate mail. Well, the only death threat I needed was the real leukemia treatment I was getting." You know, like he could really have used that as a real visceral, whatever the fucking word is, vitriol. I can't even say the word,
Vitriol. Yeah.
but
I got you.
right, he could have used that, man, and it just seems like they shy away. My other thing on the AEW side, trying to be an equal opportunist here, is that they kind of blew it off, but Britt Baker defending her women's title against Rose, the beast, the savage beast, the
Oh,
native beast.
Nyla Rose. Yeah, yeah. Nyla
Right.
Rose.
Well, look, this is not a secret, folks. Nyla Rose is a transgender woman. She was born a man and she became a woman. My pitch was that, and I use Dr. Britt as the heel champion because, they don't have her and Penelope Ford are the only two women heels they really have in AEW that are United States born. That's as far as I can tell. But Dr. Britt should have been champion, and Nyla Rose should have been #1 contender. And they kept trying to have a match. And every time they try to have the match, Dr. Britt comes out with her foot in a cast, or she's got a doctor's note, and she can't wrestle Nyla. So they keep pushing her. Hey, you got to defend the title against Nyla. And she keeps saying, I can't do it. I can't do it. And finally, they're pushing her. Like, you got to defend the title against Nyla Rose, or we're stripping you of the title. And she says, but I'm a woman's champion, and that bitch is not a woman. And then it's like all the fucking neckbeards in AEW land go crazy because she just said she's not a woman. And then they cut to commercial and they never mention it again. And they go stone cold silence for 2 weeks. And then you start with some online fucking thing. Is Dr. Britt being suspended? Blah, blah, blah. And then it becomes a story that Dr. Britt does not want to wrestle a transgender woman for the title. And you can put this fucking storyline on The View. You could have had Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar debating it. You could have had Sean Hannity debating it. Now, granted, that's all best case scenario, but my point is using a topic that's a real life topic. Do transgender women have an athletic advantage over what they say cisborn women? I just say natural born women. Let's fucking just explore this topic. Let's have some fucking fun with it. God forbid we have some fun. Uh, and it's like I said, it's not a secret that Nyla Rose is a transgender person, but have a fucking sit down interview with Jim Ross, like he did the sit down interview with Mick Foley 25 years ago that got Mick Foley over as a babyface. Have Jim Ross sitting there with his little hat and he's interviewing Nyla Rose and she gets all fucking teared up. And people that are bigots against transgender people start feeling bad. They're like, fuck, this is a real person with real goals and real motivations and a real story why she chose to do this. And then you eventually have the fucking match. But instead, they just have Nyla flip over some fucking hamburgers at a fucking Friday night dynamite that I was at. She just flips over a fucking tray of hamburgers, and 2 or 3 weeks later, that's what they did. That was the story. Britt had a celebration party for winning the title, and she had a platter of McDonald's hamburgers, and Nyla flipped the hamburgers, and nobody gave a fuck. And then they had the title match on TV 3 weeks later, or whenever, and it was a good match, but nobody gave a fuck. You insert my storyline of the transgender bigotry, and here's the problem. This makes Dr. Britt be a real fucking heel for once in her life. Don't just be the pretty girl heel who talks some smack. Be a real fucking heel that people can hate. Can you be a Larry Zbyszko heel? Can you be an Ole Anderson heel who gets a fucking knife stabbed in his stomach? I'm talking like, if you're gonna be a fucking heel, you gotta take it on. And no offense to Dr. Britt, but could she really take that type of heat without crying and saying, "OMG, I'm just playing my role"? Who the fuck knows? I guess
I
I'm.
mean,
Go ahead.
no, I'm just saying, I think that's a great idea. I really, and I heard you say that before. I mean, it's a great idea. I just think that right now that would be too risky to have a story like that. And in today's current culture, climate, and society today, it's like I just don't know if that. I mean, I feel like you said best case scenario, which would be great, but the worst case scenario too could be like all of a sudden they're trying to cancel AEW because of it. You know what I mean? They're a transphobic fucking they're homophobic company. So I love the idea, but it sucks because I feel like today you can't do that today because people are going to be offended left and right. And
Well, look,
it's bullshit,
sure.
but
Right. I'm more offended that they don't address issues than if they did, because to me, it's insulting that a great storyline is sitting there just waiting to be discovered and used, and because they don't have balls in their pants, or because they don't have the courage to use a real storyline that has money written all over it, they won't do it. But I hear you. I mean, I'm not saying that you're right in that there would be a lot of backlash, but I feel that it's how it's presented. If
I
you want
agree.
to get a buzz, get a fucking buzz. And it's like me when I started doing these wrestling rants, Gonzo. I had a voice say to me in my mind, "You're gonna be a heel," because people don't give a shit about baby faces anymore. If I was just another asshole who came on and did my wrestling reviews and said, "Oh my goodness, this is what happened on SmackDown," and whatever the fuck, people wouldn't comment on my videos. People wouldn't get angry. You wouldn't be here. Shit. I'd be another guy like Ollie and Luke who just gush over everything, and maybe they say, "Well, we give that raw average." I guess my point is to make headways in this world, and Trump proved it. You've got to be a fucking heel. Heels get things accomplished in today's
You're
society.
right.
Maybe 50 years ago, you know. So what can you do?
You're
But
you're
I just
100%
feel
right.
like, thanks, buddy. Well, what else? So the thing that I watched today, which you didn't watch, and I'm just saying, so I'm not trying to put a wool over anybody's eyes or put you in an uncomfortable spot. Just to say that I saw it, I put on NXT Takeover 36, and I just feel like this might be the effigy for NXT, at least the NXT that was what it was from whenever 2014 or now to till now, because you saw all these firings, and supposedly they're getting away from the anyone less than 240 pounds or whatever the weight limit that Junior and Pritchard or whoever are determining. Of course, some of that doesn't even make sense because they got rid of that big Bronson Reed. They got rid of him. He's a big fat guy, but I guess Vince likes big muscle guys. He doesn't like big fat guys, right? So, in any event, I watched this thing, and I feel that it was very much on brand for NXT. 5 or 6 matches. They're all pretty hard hitting. They all have more or less a clean finish. They don't have a lot of run-ins or crazy DQs or bullshit finishes on NXT. But to me, I just everything on NXT feels very much the same. And then this whole Dakota Kai versus what's her name, the tall chick, the champion Raquel Gonzalez, I guess is her name. It felt very Diesel versus Shawn, 1995. Like I think Shawn and Diesel just dusted off the old playbook of the Diesel Shawn storyline of Shawn was the worker bee. Diesel's the big guy who comes in, gets all these titles, and the worker bee is standing there, and Dakota Kai takes the Shawn spot, and Raquel Gonzalez takes the Diesel spot, and they just dusted off a 25-year-old storyline and applied it to these women.
I heard that. That's exactly what I heard too. That exact thing, Shawn and Diesel. And somebody said, well, Triple H and Shawn are the ones that are kind of running the show there. So obviously, why wouldn't they use that storyline? It's coming from them.
Well, I guess the reason why not to use it is because people like myself will point it out. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, they don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Because
No.
If you're watching, you're watching. If you're not, you're not. And I think that that's kind of the casual disregard for the wrestling fan that WWE has had. And I think that we'll see what happens. But hey, look, on Saturday night they got my $25. I mean, I was the only one in the movie theater, but I was there, so I don't know if they came out ahead. But I enjoyed myself. Once again, the lesson learned for WWE fans, at least my advice, is if you don't want to get angry with WWE, watch less of it. Watch less, and then you'll enjoy what you see more. That's all. That's all. Other stuff, I guess the big deal was that Adam Cole ended up losing, and they tried to do like that. If you remember that Steve Austin, once again, Steve Austin versus Triple H, the regular match, the street fight, and then the cage.
Yeah.
That was an Austin Triple H, feud thing. They
3
did that
stages of
exact
hell
same
or
thing
some
here.
shit.
Right. Well, they did the same thing with Adam Cole and one of his undisputed buddies. And I mean, I hate to pull that card. I hate to be that guy, but when you're comparing Adam Cole and this guy that he's fighting, Kyle O'Reilly, I believe, to Triple H and Steve Austin, it does. I hate to say it, but it does feel like battle of the vanilla midgets. You know what I mean? It's just, it just feels that way. And
Yeah.
Once again, I wasn't paying full attention. I might have missed a bunch of great spots. I'm not a huge Adam Cole fan. I mean, I don't have anything personal against the guy, and I don't dispute, so to speak, that he's had some great matches. To me, it's the King Kong Bundy Chris Jericho thing. If you ever saw Bundy's shoot interview on Jericho, where Bundy says, "I got nothing against Chris Jericho, but I've had bigger shits than Chris Jericho." You know what I mean? And so, but at least Jericho has kind of used that to his advantage. I don't know if a guy like Adam Cole, I don't know. He just doesn't do it for me. And I totally see him if he comes to AEW. Will he have great matches? Of course he will. Will he be in there with Daniel Bryan or CM Punk, and they'll have these epic matches that will get the "this is awesome" chants from everybody? I'm sure. He just doesn't do it for me. Maybe in the AEW realm, Adam Cole will do it for me. Maybe he doesn't even go to AEW. Maybe we're all jumping to conclusions. But the fact that he submitted in the cage thing, that's what happened at the end. Adam Cole submits in the cage, would lend one to think that he's headed to AEW. So, any thoughts on Adam Cole, Gonzo, or just what do you think of that guy?
I mean, he's really small. I mean, that's the first thing. He's a real fucking small guy. But I think for his size, I think he's good. But he's not the kind of guy that would make me want to tune in to watch it. I haven't seen anything from him where I'm like, oh, I gotta fucking see what's going on with Adam Cole, or I gotta see that Adam Cole match. I know he's boys with the Young Bucks and shit like that, and they used to be like in a group together, I think, somewhere else, maybe in Ring of Honor or something. So he probably would fit in better in AEW, but I haven't seen enough of the guy's personality. But one thing that I can say is the guy seems like he has a lot of charisma. So it would be cool to see him in a different environment to see what he could do, But he's definitely small, he's very fucking small. So I feel like guys that are that small, it's kind of limited who you can put him against. You know what I mean? At a certain point, it just doesn't make sense to put him against somebody so much bigger.
But in AEW, he will fit right in because all the top guys in AEW are small.
Yeah.
I mean, Cody said it himself. It's a cruiserweight company, and you've got Omega. You've got, if Daniel Bryan comes in, as has been predicted and reported already, CM Punk's not a huge guy, you know. So I mean, I think it's a deal where if Adam Cole comes in, he's gonna. That's almost like playing the game to perfection. Get over in NXT, and before you become a sacrificial lamb on the main roster, go over to AEW's.
You got that right.
You know what I mean?
You got that right, dude. That's like he's setting a blueprint right now if he goes to AEW because he gets over on NXT that big, and then I bet you he would be over from day one in AEW. The people are probably waiting for him to go there. All the hardcore AEW fans.
Keep talking, Gonzo.
Yo. Am I sounding kind of fucked up? I'm hearing something kind of fucked up on your end. Looks like his mic is on mute. Oh, drop the phone. What's happening there, buddy? What's happening?
I had just give me a second, buddy.
Yeah.
It's all work in progress.
Sounds like you're changing channels.
Hold on.
Mike Messier, live, but not really live. What was that? Mike is experiencing technical difficulties right now. Bear with him. Oh. That was interesting.
Oh, keep talking.
Yo.
Yep, here we go.
There you go.
I don't know if you get the static again. I need to get some juice in my phone. That's the problem.
You're all right. I can hear you pretty well.
Okay, but my phone is dying of battery. Is the point? So
yeah.
This is that I just had to plug my. See, once you plug the phone into the car to get some juice, then it screws up all the audio. So it's all one thing after another. You know what I mean?
Big dick in the ass, as you would say.
Dick in the ass. Well,
dick in the ass.
The expression that I'll introduce now to the paid audience is the daily dick in the ass, the DDIA, which is something I've never said on YouTube until just now. But my theory is that pretty much every day you're going to have your daily dick in the ass, which is some unexpected event that's going to fuck you over and make you feel bad. And so, but there's a dick. I mean, for the SummerSlam folks, I guess I want to go back to this Bianca Belair thing.
Oh, boy.
I just feel that it's a tough subject. Here's why. Because I feel that WWE, I mean, I can see why someone thinks it is a racist trend, like Kofi and now Bianca. But it's almost like just WWE misuses and abuses everybody. You know what I mean? So I could point out, hey, look, they had Trish Stratus, a white woman, on her knees barking like a dog 22 years ago. They had they misused Damian Sandow, who was over. They misused Chris Hero. Chris Hero was over as Cassius Ohno. So we can point to several white wrestlers or non-African American wrestlers and point out all these misusings. However, on the flip side, WWE really did make a big deal about Kofi Kingston, although I was waving my hand saying, what about The Rock? Doesn't The Rock count as African American? And I was quickly
Yeah.
corrected by some that apparently he wasn't for whatever
Okay,
reason.
that makes no sense, but okay.
I know. And then even people, when Bobby Lashley won the title, people were quickly pointing out, well, Bobby Lashley's the first African American champion. I said, wait a minute, what about Kofi? Well, he said,
These
well,
fucking people.
Kofi's from Guana. And I'm like, okay, are we going to have the first Detroit based African American champion? I mean, at what point? But it's not for me to determine, apparently. Because if it was me to determine, I'd say that there was a champion named The Rock. And guess what? I was there when fucking Ron Simmons won a real world title, the WCW world title in fucking Baltimore. And that was a real life situation. Okay. So I'm not trying to diminish people's feelings, but at some point we can all put too much into this wrestling stuff. And I feel that as an experienced wrestling fan, watching the whole thing with Becky Lynch play out, my feeling is Sasha was not medically cleared. It could have been pandemic. It could have not. She wasn't cleared. They shoehorned Becky in. Their judgment call was, if we don't tell them Becky's coming and we just hit them with Becky, it'll go over better than if we tell them that Sasha's not coming. And then if all the internet trolls start saying, I wonder if it's Becky, I wonder if it's Becky, then it's ruined. So they wanted to surprise people, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the sacrifice. Becky probably wasn't really ready to have a 20-minute match or a 10-minute match.
No.
But if they're bringing Becky back, they can't make her fucking lose. So it's not like they could have Bianca beat Becky in 10 seconds. They had to have fucking Becky win in 10 seconds. And now they have 3 or 4 weeks of hype. And I hope that the next pay-per-view is not just in Saudi Arabia, because if Becky and Bianca have to go to Saudi Arabia, that's going to be a fucking train wreck. If they have to
Is there a chance of that happening? It's going to be in Saudi Arabia. Is that what you heard?
No, they advertised Crown Jewel, I think, for October 10th.
Okay.
But I don't recall them advertising a September USA pay-per-view. I don't recall.
Extreme Rules. I saw the advertisement.
Okay. I saw that too. I forgot. So thank you. So now if they can do Bianca, if Becky can get her fucking gears in order, and all that Becky has to do is talk shit for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever till Extreme Rules, and then she can do a 10-minute match or a 15-minute match or a 20-minute match with Bianca. And whether the best possible scenario is that they have somebody come out, Carmella or somebody, interfere, cost Becky the title, put the belt back on Bianca, or even have a Shabazz, have a double DQ or a no contest. But basically some way to make them both look good and both come out baby faces and even do like the respect thing. You know what I mean? I think that's
Well,
go ahead.
I saw the whole Becky thing. I thought it was cool her coming back. Yeah, like great surprise and everything. But beyond that, it was fucking awful. You know, because Bianca Belair is really good, and I feel like she's really worked hard to get to that spot, like really hard. And that they just buried her. Like they just buried her and spit on the fucking dirt. You know, and that was just terrible. And I saw this video today where somebody pointed out, like, did you see all of the gestures Becky was making after she had the title? It was like she's already trying to work heel. Like she's going to be a heel against Bianca Belair, which, I mean, would make sense, I guess, because Seth Rollins is a heel and they're together, so she might as well be heel too, I guess. But that whole thing was just terrible, and it really served no purpose. You know, like, okay, the surprise was there, but after that, there was just nothing, you know? And I think that they're going to try. That's what they're going to try to do, is play that story now. Like, well, I wasn't ready for that. Becky came back. I wasn't ready for that. So now we're really going to settle it in a real match or whatever. And I think Becky's probably going to be heel. You know, that to me, that's what it seems like they're going to do. If you go back and look, rewatch it or check online, you'll see some of the aftermatch stuff when Becky had the belt and stuff like that. And when I watched it, I totally agreed with that. I was like, wow, it does look like she's working heel, like the way she was talking to the crowd and like she was like rubbing the belt and doing all this other stuff, and it just wasn't like babyface Becky. So did you catch that when you watched SummerSlam?
I don't think I caught all that because either I went to the restroom when all that happened, or they cut to a break or something. Because I definitely saw the match, and I saw Bianca, kind of nodding and smiling and in befuddlement or amazement after, like, "I'll get you, girl," at the or whatever. And
Yeah.
I guess for me, I just didn't take it personally. I just saw it as it was a make good look. I think the real thing that I'm concerned, I guess, is no one seems to be saying, "Hey, what's wrong with Sasha? Is Sasha having a contract dispute? Does she have pandemic? Does she have an injured toe? Where's our girl Sasha at?" No one seems to give a shit unless they're just angry that she wasn't there, and I can get that. But to me, and Brian Alvarez dug deep into it. I listened to him this morning. He was saying that they were, as of Friday night, Sasha and Bianca did a thing in the ring. There had been these reports that the two of them had missed some house shows and blah, blah, blah. And yet WWE was not showing their cards saying, "Hey, yeah, one of these girls is injured and can't wrestle, or one of these ladies is injured." So Alvarez was taking them to task. And for me, I think that one thing, if you listen to Bruce Pritchard's podcast a lot, they did a thing with Lex Luger holding the WWF title before WrestleMania 9. Like they gave Lex Luger the title belt at a live TV taping. It wasn't live; it was a pre-recorded TV taping. And Vince McMahon introduces him and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, how would you feel if Lex Luger won the World Wrestling Federation Championship at WrestleMania?" And Luger comes out with the fucking belt while Yoko is still the champion. Luger comes out fully dressed in street clothes with the WWF title belt. And they did there in 1993. So they say, and now these days you hear Meltzer on some of these Triple H calls or whatever. They'll have Meltzer call in. But back then, they were so concerned about Dave Meltzer spoiling shit for the smart marks and that leading to the general populace, but they literally put Luger through this fucking thing with the title belt. So my point is, as much as WWE likes to think of themselves as WWE Island, and we're not connected to the dirt sheets or to AEW, they do play the fucking game. They do things in order to swerve the smart marks and to fuck with AEW and everything else that people say, "Well, they don't do that. They just do what's best for them." Bull fucking shit.
I would agree with that 100%. Of course they play, and it was obvious with SummerSlam too. Like having two surprises like that at SummerSlam, it was obvious that they were doing that because CM Punk came back on AEW. Like if CM Punk didn't come back, do you really think Becky and Brock would have showed up at SummerSlam? I mean, me personally, I don't necessarily think that's a guarantee. Maybe that was already in the plan. It's a big show, but you got to think that they knew about CM Punk coming back. They probably people there probably saw it and saw the way everything went down, and I think that they wanted to bust out some of their own surprises for SummerSlam. And of course they're going to play the game because WWE, like you said, they think they're on their own island. They think that they're above all that sort of stuff with the dirt sheets and the people reporting stuff online, but they play the game just as much as anybody else does.
Yeah. So
let me ask you. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead and ask a question.
All right. Well, I kind of wanted to change the subject. You didn't tell me what you thought about the CM Punk thing, and I was going to ask you, did you see the ratings for Rampage? Because I just saw them a little while ago. Did you see the rating?
Was it 1.3 million?
No, it was like 1.13, but I looked at the actual breakdown of it, and I think the rating was up like 52% from last week. So that's a pretty significant increase. And the 18 to 49 demo was up 79%. So it's pretty obvious that people were anticipating that probably haven't been watching wrestling for a long time, in 7 years at least.
I'll give you my personal anecdote. I was at Epcot Center in Orlando on Friday, and it was a hot, sticky day. I was very uncomfortable, and I could have gone back to where I was staying that night, but instead I'm like, I'm going to go see a movie. So I go to some mall in Orlando that I'd never been to before, to some movie theater I'd never been to before. I know I'm missing Rampage. I know I'm missing the big wrestling story, but I want to go out and enjoy my life. You know what I mean? So if I can go out and see a movie on a Friday night, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to go home and shelter in place for CM Punk. No offense to him or anybody else. But I've got it taping on the YouTube TV, which I recommend, especially for wrestling fans or anyone who wants to record a lot of shows. YouTube TV is a great option because you have unlimited DVR. So I get into this fucking movie theater, the lobby. It's 10:03. Like 10:03 p.m. I look over at the bar. It's like one of these, movie theaters that has a little bar area.
Yeah.
Right there on TV, CM Punk.
I saw you post that. I saw you post that about a business, stopping what they're doing for, you've moved the needle a little bit, or the landscape has changed. And I was wondering, like, where you were. I was like, where is he right now that he's saying that? Is he at a fucking Walmart or something? Like, where is he? And it's good. It's good to know now what you were talking about.
Well, I'll clue you in a little bit. They didn't exactly stop the fucking business.
Yeah.
I'm working people too. Come on.
Yeah, of course.
So I go to the lobby, but I mean, here's what I experienced. There's one guy at the bar who's totally zoned into this fucking thing. The bartender is totally zoned in. I fucking come in, so I'm zoned in, and I'm grabbing a chair, and the bartender says, "You want a drink or you just want to watch this?" I said, "I just want to watch this." And then the cashier girl, like the girl that checked me into the movie theater, who's probably 18 or 20 years old, maybe 25 at the most, she comes over to watch. The manager of the fucking movie theater comes over to watch. They've all got masks on except the other guy at the other customer and myself, and they're all kind of nodding and appreciating and into it. That's what I experienced. That's real life. That's when you're talking about whoever it was, either this wasn't me coming in and saying, "God damn it, everybody, let's watch wrestling." Some fucking guy, either the prior customer or the bartender, decided to put this thing on, and now you got 5 strangers sharing a moment, and everyone was into it. And the chick, not to be stereotypical, but this is what happened. The chick, of course, is like, "Is this WWE?" And I'm like, "No, this is the competition. This group is out of Jacksonville." And of course, I'm going on smart mark mode, and I'm cluing everybody in. I'm like, "This company's, 3 hours from here. I go to their shows all the time. Yada yada, fish boom ba." And of course, everyone else is different levels of casual. But they were all pretty fucking happy to see it. Like the manager of the movie theater, I think he was a manager, he was all into it. They were happy to fucking see CM Punk because somewhere in their history, they knew who this guy was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that I bet you any money, like at least 3 out of those 5 people probably haven't watched wrestling in fucking 6, 7, 8 years or 5 years or something. You know what I mean? I highly doubt that all those people are doing that every Wednesday or every Friday, huddled around the TV to watch Rampage or Dynamite or Raw or SmackDown or whatever. And that's the whole thing about the emotion. Like what I was saying about emotion, like that was a real moment. You shared a real moment with people, strangers.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen nowadays. Like the last time I remember people gathering like that for wrestling was the Attitude Era, was the Monday Night Wars. And I don't want to blow it, not to cut you off, but I don't want to blow it out of proportion. I mean, it's not like the fucking world is turned over or flipped on its fucking axis. You know what I mean? I'm excited because I love wrestling. You know what I mean? So I was excited to see that. And I'm sure you were happy to see it because you love wrestling. But it was a moment. And it was a moment that I think more than just the average wrestling fan or the regular wrestling fan will enjoy. And I think other people that don't watch wrestling watched that and enjoyed it.
I think you're right, because that's what I experienced, and I try to convey that on the Facebook threads. And, yeah, I exaggerated a little bit. Obviously, the business did not shut down, but everybody who was there stopped what they were doing to tune into this fucking thing. These five assorted strangers at the movie theater, all five of us were converging and sharing the moment. And it meant something. And I feel that on the flip side, Gonzo, the next night, maybe because I'm in Jacksonville, which is AEW territory, or who knows why, I go to the movie theater. I paid $25 to see the pay per view I could have watched at home or whatever for the Peacock, but I paid the money to see it on a big screen, and I was the only one in the theater. And to me, that was kind of disappointing because I remember going to movie theaters in 2002 in Providence, Rhode Island. The Castle Movie Theater used to play, Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker, Hell in the Cell. And I think it was, I want to say Angle and Benoit versus Edge and Mysterio for the vacant tag team titles. And the Shawn Michaels versus Triple H SummerSlam 2002, which I still say was the best SummerSlam with Rock versus Brock. I saw all of those matches in this movie theater in Providence, Rhode Island on a big screen where it was like dinner, like a dinner movie theater. We have the food and you have
Yeah.
like cushy swivel seats and shit. And I was going to the movie theater on Saturday night as a retro for myself. Like, man, I used to love doing that. I used to love going to the movie fucking theater to watch WWE pay-per-views. And I was really disappointed that I mean, in a way, I had a great time. You and I did some podcasting, and some other people chimed in on the podcast that I was doing. But at the other hand, I'm like, you know what? If they don't start selling tickets for these things, they're not going to continue. You know, because in
Yeah.
my venue, uh, at least in my venue, they weren't probably making their money in the movie theater AMC because I was the only one there.
Hmm.
So I tried, people like my buddy Kevin Castle and Johnny Z from New York will often criticize me and say I'm not a true fan if I don't allow WWE to get some second chances. But I tried. And the funny thing is, Gonzo, I think I enjoyed SummerSlam more not watching Raw and SmackDown every week than others who do watch Raw and SmackDown. I'll give you an example. Joe Cronin, my buddy, who does his Cronin podcast, he was pointing out all the things at SummerSlam that happened on Raw or SmackDown the same week. Drew McIntyre beating one of these guys, Ginger's guys, and then beats him and then threatens him with the sword and then misses him and goes like this. Like I could have beat you by an inch or what I could have killed you. I
Yeah.
don't understand that. You have a baby face with a lethal weapon that's trying to kill people. Then he's saying that Bianca beat Carmella the night before SummerSlam, like beat her in 3 minutes. Well, I didn't know that because I didn't watch SmackDown. So my point, once again, less is fucking more. And I think I'm the only wrestling guy, talking head, whatever, that tells fans a prescription to enjoy more WWE, enjoy what you watch of WWE by watching less of it. I think I'm the only one that fucking says that. These other guys, as much as I like Joe Cronin or JD from New York or Alvarez and Meltzer, they'll never tell you to stop watching as much. They'll never say lower your fucking intake and you'll enjoy it more. They'll never give you that because they're counting on people to watch all this shit so they can go vent and analyze it. At least I'm trying to be honest. You know what I mean?
Well, and the thing is like you're 100% right. You know what I mean? Because I watched it from 2014 to maybe 2018 or 2019, even like every week, every show. And then finally, I just said, man, this is enough. Like, I'm not wasting my time with this anymore. And you were already saying it, like fucking Raw protest, stop watching Raw, and really I've found that if like I was able to watch SummerSlam the other night because I haven't watched any WWE. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So I was able to enjoy it a little bit more because I'm not so tuned into like everything that's going on that makes no sense every week. You know what I mean? And I didn't have as much room to be let down. Like all these other people that are watching it every week, They just have like it's like they drop their guard and they're just go ahead, let me down. Let me down. You know what I mean? Because that's what it is for me, at least. All that time that I was watching it, the past like 3 years before I stopped watching it, it was just like, okay, you let me down like all the time, and I feel like I wasted my fucking time watching this. And you can actually stomach it when you don't watch it as much. You're 100% right. You're dead. You're fucking dead on with that.
I appreciate that, buddy. Well, Gonzo, I'll give you the final word. I guess I'll say my final word. You think of what you want to say last. I appreciate you coming on, the spontaneous thing. A lot of people don't get me or where I'm coming from with the spontaneity, but it's not just with podcasts, it's about life. If
Yeah.
I want to go see a fucking movie, I'll go see a fucking movie. If I want to do a podcast or a video, I'll do it. I really get upset when people got to plan every fucking thing. And I get it. Some things you have to plan, but some things you don't. So I appreciate you being spontaneous and coming on here and just talking shop and all that good stuff. And as far as this week in wrestling ahead or the major things, I guess for me, my thing is let's see what happens Wednesday. Is CM Punk going to show up for Wednesday, or are we going to have to learn that we have to space out our CM Punk intake, or is he all in, so to speak? Is he going to be on every week? We don't know.
Well, they're advertising him for Wednesday, just so
Oh,
you
they
know.
are.
They
Okay.
said his Dynamite, his first Dynamite appearance Wednesday.
Okay, great. So then I guess still in that same mode of discussion, going forth, will CM Punk, like Sting, be a guy that you see pretty much every week? And they're just going to play that pony until it runs dry? Or do they do a couple of weeks of CM Punk and then they start scaling him back a little bit? And I guess that's something that Punk and Tony Khan and whoever else have already worked out, but I just don't know the answer. And then my thing next with AEW is the Daniel Bryan question, or the Bryan Danielson question, which is I feel that he got a little overshadowed by this CM Punk thing. Because 2 days before CM Punk was announced as a rumor for you, the big thing was Bryan Danielson coming to AEW, but he hasn't shown up yet, and I'm very curious. Are they off like another month, or do they want to get him going and put him on the next pay per view? We'll see. What do you think?
What I heard are like the rumors and the different shit that I've heard online is possibly that New York show he might debut, because they're having that show in New York within like the next 2 months. I think it's their first time in New York. It's like the Arthur Ashe Arena, I believe is what it's called. I heard that there's a possibility.
Yeah, Orthodox.
Yeah, I heard there's a possibility he might pop up on that. I don't know anything about that stadium. People are talking about it like it's a big deal. Is that like a big place or something? Or
It's like I think it's like 15,000 seats, and I believe it's like a tennis stadium where they have like the U.S. Open in. So
oh, okay,
it's not a typical wrestling venue. It's kind of like a prestigious thing because if I'm thinking the correct way, it's where they have one of the Grand Slam tennis things. They've never had any pro wrestling there. I could be wrong, but I believe it's like kind of a semi outdoor thing, like kind of a covered
got it.
amphitheater. So I believe it's just like, oh shit, this is interesting. Like they chose a venue that's unique. You know what I mean? They didn't go
So I
for
mean that would make sense
right.
to have some type of Daniel Bryan or
Uh,
somebody else. Still there, buddy?
yep. And then the cool. What's that?
I
You hear me?
there was like a lag. Yeah, I can hear you. There was like a lag.
Yeah. These Indian folks love wrestling, and Wrestle Brothers and WrestleLamia, I believe, are different channels like from India that love wrestling on YouTube. So Wrestle Brothers, I think it's called, and it could be Wrestle Bros and Wrestle Brothers, and then WrestleLamia. But I think it was WrestleLamia was saying they showed a picture of Bray Wyatt in his new look, and he looks like a big fat version of Adam from Counting Crows, like with the fucking blonde hair and the
I saw
fucking.
that.
It looks god awful. So I'm hoping that whatever Bray Wyatt or Cult of Wyndham or Wyndham Rotundo does, I mean, it's cool if you've been growing a beard and you want to shave it. I get it because I do that all the time too. But he doesn't look very good. Like
Nah,
he needs that fucking beard, man. Like
or he needs the mask. I mean, the mask works
yeah,
too, I think.
yeah, or both. But um, no offense, because I'm not look. I'm a big chubby guy too, but Wyndham Rotundo, he has a cool look with that beard. But when he doesn't have that beard, man, his cool value hits the shitter. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, when I saw the picture of him too, I was like, I didn't even believe that was him, to be honest with you. I was like, that's not even him. But I saw it again, and I'm like, okay, I guess that is him. You know?
I looked at the eyes and stuff, and I'm pretty sure it is him. There are certain people that need facial hair, otherwise they just don't look right, and he's one of those people, I guess. So.
That's how I am too. I feel like I don't look right when I don't have facial hair.
I got you, buddy.
You know?
Well, like I said, I want to give you the final word, Gonzo. So you go ahead. Anything you want to say? Predict? Did I answer both of your questions about Punk? Was there another question?
Well, no, I just asked you what you thought about it, but from everything you said, I could tell you liked it.
Well,
You know
okay,
what I mean?
I didn't give you the fair enough answer. Okay, so I liked it. I did, and I feel that it was total babyface Punk. I think that if look, it's his thing to say. If he wanted to send an olive branch to WWE, not that he had to after all the stuff they've been through, but I guess if I was writing the script, what I would have written in there something like, I went away from professional wrestling for 15 years. In my sojourn, I found I sacrificed 15 years of pro wrestling for the love of my life, a big platform to speak to you people from, and 3 minutes of truth. And I would make that, and people would, I would make that sacrifice over. But now that time is come and gone, I'm glad to be back into the world of pro wrestling. Because I think what he and Moxley have in common, which I think Moxley at least acknowledged, they both met their brides through WWE. CM Punk met AJ Lee, who's his wife, and she's 10 years younger than him, and she's seemingly a perfect match. He met his wife through WWE. So he can't say it was all bad. And I just think some type of acknowledgement that, hey, I did, but of course you're working for AEW now, so you don't want to put over WWE. But
Yeah.
some type of acknowledgement like, I did sacrifice pro wrestling, but I got a lot out of it, but there was a price for that. And the price was a chunk of my soul. Now I'm a writer, so of course I'm always looking to cover all the goddamn bases with everything. And maybe that they didn't have time for all that shit. And maybe he didn't want to drag his wife into it. Maybe AJ Lee's status is wait and see. I'd love to see her do a program with Dr. Britt or whoever. AJ Lee, I'm talking about. Love to see her back in the wrestling ring, but maybe she doesn't want to. Maybe she's going to see how this thing goes with Punk and then make her decision later. But I thought it was a good speech. The fans is the ones that made that fucking thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and I'm not the hugest Punk guy either. Like I like Punk, but I'm not like a huge. I've met Punk twice. He was cool to me. I'm wearing the fucking Punk shirt
Yeah.
out of respect. But
Out of
Punk's
respect.
out of respect to what he did, and it's cool, man. I mean, when I met him, he was a cool guy, and I think he's a real pro wrestling fan. And so to answer your question, I liked it. I was kind of intrigued by Darby Allin was fucking chomp at the bit. You could see Darby Allin just kind of shaking, wanting to get this thing going. Because if anyone's going to be elevated, even in a victory, a loss, Darby Allin's going to go through the fucking moon with this thing.
I agree. And that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, Darby Allin is already over. The guy's already over. And in my opinion, from watching AEW from the beginning, the best person that I've seen on there that I never saw in WWE or I never saw anywhere else is Darby Allin. Because he reminds me of Bret Hart in the way that everything in his matches feels like it's real. It feels like Darby Allin is really getting the shit kicked out of him when he is, and he's really trying to kick the shit out of the other guy when that's where the match is going. It just he's gritty, and I like that about him. And I think that having a match with CM Punk, I don't think he's going to win. I don't think he should win. But if he puts up a hell of a fight, which I think is what's going to happen, it's going to be like this great moment for him where he's just going to get elevated to like this whole other level, because I think that they're really going to put on a match that is going to stand the test of time, that somebody could look back, 5 years later and be like, wow, man, that was a really great match. CM Punk, I'm sure he might be rusty, but I also read online him working that show on Stars, Heels, that he did a lot of in-ring training and this and that, and people are saying, man, it looks like he never stopped wrestling. So I'm expecting them to fucking blow the roof off that place. I'm expecting them to steal the show. There's no way that match doesn't overshadow Christian Cage and Kenny Omega. That match is going to overshadow that. So I think it's going to be really great. I think Darby Allin's the right guy to put him in there with first. But I do think, and I heard this somewhere else, I heard somebody else say this, but I do agree, and I think that the money feud right now after this Darby Allin thing is with him and Colt Cabana. If they can do a feud with them two because they have all kinds of real-life history, real-life heat, you could play that off of reality. That would all be based off of reality. And you could elevate Colt Cabana to another level in AEW. And I think that would be a money storyline. So I'm hoping that that's what they do.
Yeah, I posted something about Colt Cabana possibly with Punk in like Reddit, and people shat all over it. But
really,
the Reddit. I've learned that the Reddit wrestling world is pretty lame, to be honest with you.
It sounds like it.
It's a lame group, and they kind of just like the candy that they're fed. They don't like to think like they're not into fantasy booking. They're like into appreciation to the candy that's in the store, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I would say, would you put Punk and Darby last on that Chicago pay-per-view, or do you put your title match last? How do you book it?
You put your title match last. You 100% put your title match last. I mean, you could book it the other way.
I totally disagree.
You disagree?
I think the smart move is to put Punk and Darby last, because did we learn nothing from from Hogan Rock WrestleMania 18? If Punk doing a pro wrestling match in front of a live audience in front of Chicago, if you gotta, let's put it this way: if Punk is going over, you put that match last. If Darby is gonna win because of Sting interference somehow, setting up Sting versus Punk, then you put the match 5th or 6th. So my thing is, you don't want to put Omega and especially Christian in that Chris Jericho Triple H spot from WrestleMania 18.
No, you know something. You're right. You're 100% right, dude. 100% right.
Well,
because that's the thing. How is anybody going to follow that? I wasn't really thinking about that. I was thinking more in the sense of like, you put the title match, the world title match on last, like that's tradition. But what you're saying is right, because again, there's just no way that Omega and Christian Cage are going to top that. There's no way they're going to follow that.
Yeah, I think I went to Double or Nothing, and I'm trying to remember who the fuck Omega wrestled, but the Stadium Stampede thing was last.
Yeah.
And whoever Omega wrestled, which I'm drawing a blank on right now, he didn't wrestle last. He wrestled before that, and I'm just being honest. I can't even remember who Kenny Omega wrestled at that paper.
I don't remember either. I have no idea.
I was there, and I can't remember. So it wasn't Christian Cage, and I don't think it was Jungle Boy, because that was a Dynamite, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember either, to be honest with you.
It wasn't Moose, or it wasn't this one, or it wasn't that one. So whoever the fuck it was, I guess Omega retained. it wasn't Kenny. It wasn't Moxley. It wasn't.
No. And it
Jesus.
wasn't Hangman Page either. I was thinking, oh, maybe it was Hangman Page, but it wasn't him either.
Yeah.
I honestly, I can't fucking remember who it was. And I'm surprised I'm drawing a blank like that on it.
Because it had to be somebody. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure that they didn't have an AEW pay-per-view, and he wasn't in the Stadium Stampede.
No.
And I don't think he was in some tag match or something like that. So
No.
It wasn't Cody, because Cody can't wrestle him, and
I'm gonna look it up right now, Mike, because it's gonna drive me nuts if I don't if I don't know who it is.
Because we'll look like a couple of dumb marks if we don't know who the fuck Omega.
Well, right now we are a couple of dumb marks right now because we don't remember. But I mean, yeah, and you were there. That's funny.
And I had a good time.
Let me look right now. I gotta see this because it's driving me nuts. I feel like I should definitely know.
I think it was a long match, though.
Let me see here. Let me see. Oh, it was Orange, Cassidy, and Pac. It was a three-way. That's right. I remember that now. I remember that now. But dude, you're 100% right. Punk has to go on last. There's no way they're gonna follow that. And you know, another thing I wanted to bring up too, like just points of reference for me, is that you know, I like to listen to Jim Ross a lot. You know, I know he's a crazy fuck, but I love his mind when it comes to wrestling and his reactions to things and the way that he talks about things. I like listening to him. And he literally said that he couldn't have booked the CM Punk thing better. Him and Brian Last put that thing over for 20 minutes straight, like it was the fucking greatest thing since sliced bread. And that blew my mind because for Jim Cornette to put anything over from today's wrestling is kind of a rarity. You know, you know how Jim Cornette is. He's an old school guy. He doesn't like the new school shit. And he put that over and said he couldn't have booked it better himself. So to me, when Jim Cornette is saying that about something on AEW, that's got to tell you something. That okay, that was a moment. That was something that will stand the test of time. And Jim Cornette's not the only one. You know, other people are saying it too. Bully Ray, I heard him talking about it, saying it was perfect. There was nothing that they could have done better. They caught lightning in a bottle, and I'm just excited for the momentum that AEW can gain now. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm so tired of WWE. I hate seeing this fucking monopoly and wrestling bullshit. I want to see a war. I want to go back to 1996, and I want to see another war. And as a fan, that's the only thing that I want. I want to see AEW just keep growing and getting better and better, and I want to see a war, just like it was 22 years ago or 24 years ago.
Well, I'm with you. And one of my videos from 2018, I said it's time to choose your sides, AEW versus NXT, Wednesday Night War. And I said that that's what makes it fun. And I feel that a part of the social media antagonism of wrestling fans towards each other or towards me or towards other people that are opinionated, I like the antagonism because that's why we watch pro wrestling. Pro wrestling, in a word, should be conflict. When everything is nice, happy, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
And I feel that maybe it's a generational difference or whatever, but we're basically watching a sport that one of the great principles is 30-year-old men with dyed blonde hair are going to fucking poke themselves with razor blades in their forehead for 12-year-old fans in the front row. So that's conflict. Things aren't supposed to make sense. When one thing to piss on WWE a little bit more, when they want to do an anti-bullying thing, but the sport is based on bullying. The sport is based on bullying.
Yeah.
You know, Andre the Giant was a bully. Big John Studd was a bully. They're all bullies. When you want to do an anti-bullying campaign and then at the same time go to Saudi where they throw homosexuals off roofs and kill them, and I would assume you could say they're bullying their women by not giving them full rights, but you want to do an anti-bullying campaign and then you want to have Alexa Bliss bully Nia Jax. So my point is, when wrestling stays in, that's why I like AEW better right now. because they're not trying to be more than a wrestling company. Be a fucking wrestling company first, then solve the world's problems after that.
I agree.
Okay,
I
buddy, I'm
agree.
going to call it a wrap. Like I said, my battery's been dying. I think it's because I have all these videos on here. Hopefully the audio was good. We had a little static here, but hopefully the StreamYard cleans it up for everybody. But it's been good talking to you, Gonzo. And
Yeah, man.
For those that watch Raw tonight, enjoy it. For those that don't. And any final words? You get 2 minutes, Gonzo, and then we'll call it a night.
All right. I just want to, I'm going to throw out, I have a small theory, and I think this may happen down the road. I think AEW's first kind of jab at WWE, in my mind, might be that after Rampage goes for a while, if they can keep that viewership, if they can build a little bit of viewership, I could see AEW making Rampage a 2-hour show down the road and dropping the start time to 9 and trying to cut into half a SmackDown. And I hope that eventually that's what they do. And then the only other thing I'm going to say is follow me on Instagram at the Gonzo Shark. Follow me on Twitter at Gonzo Shark, the number 1, Gonzo Shark 1. And, you know, as long as you want to do these shows, man, I'm down to do shows anytime you want. I'm going to be launching my own YouTube channel here pretty soon, you know, probably within the next 2 months or so. So, you know, everybody just follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and you'll get any other update after that. You know, I post everything to those 2 places right now. You can also find me on Facebook, the Gonzo Shark on Facebook. You can check that out too. But Mike, I appreciate you having me on the show, dude. It was a great time. I love talking to you, man.
Thanks, brother. All right, everybody. Thanks, Gonzo, and subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. And we'll be having more guests in the future to talk shop, talk wrestling, and just opinions, not facts. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.